Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Marcus from the Weekly Spot, back again with another video, and today I'm going to do a book review of Star Wars Heir to the Empire, written by Timothy Zahn. So the story takes place 5 years after Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi, after the Rebel Alliance defeated the Empire. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Leia Skywalker, Organa Solo, are building the New Republic, but while they're managing a new government, they are now facing a new threat: Grand Admiral Thrawn, an Imperial military leader who has been taking command of the remnants of the scattered Empire. So if I gotta be honest, I wasn't familiar with the Star Wars expanded or Legends universe until like the sequel came out. But when I did hear about it, I of course was doing some research to see what's canon and what's not canon, and just learning more about the universe. Like I wouldn't necessarily call myself a hardcore Star Wars fan, but I do like Star Wars. I think it's such a cool and interesting world, and this book may I add is my first introduction to the expanded universe, which seems fitting since this book does take place years after Return of the Jedi, and I really enjoyed this book. The story got me hooked from beginning to end, as this book explores the challenges of building a new government after the war, which is the New Republic. We got an introduction of other planets, species, creatures, etc., expanding the lore. And by the way, I did listen to the audiobook version of this, and I do recommend it. Even if you read the physical book, I would still say check it out, because the voice acting, by Mark Thompson is pretty solid. I really like the production quality. I like the sound effects, hearing the lightsabers, the blasters, the ships, etc., and hearing the iconic John Williams music. Like it's a really fun listen. But anyways, it was cool seeing what was going on with the characters. Well, at least these versions of the characters, because the sequel trilogy handled them differently, and this book isn't considered canon. Luke Skywalker here is now a renowned Jedi and is wanting to bring back the Jedi Order. Leia is now the leader of the New Republic, focusing on diplomacy, securing a new allies while navigating the political dangers, and also getting into her Jedi training. And she's married to Han Solo and is pregnant with twins, which that part about them, having children, I did know about, before, going into to this book. And Han Solo is now a general of the New Republic, dealing with diplomatic responsibilities with missions to secure resources that could help against the Empire. And I feel like Han, in both canon and non-canon, is the one with the most significant growth. I mean, he started off as like this cynical and selfish smuggler that is motivated by money, survival. He didn't really care about the rebellion, and now he's like a selfless, leader, a husband, and a soon-to-be father. Like, who would have thought, And not to count out Luke and Leia, like they've grown a lot as well. Like Luke, went from being this impatient, eager, naive farm boy, and now a wise Jedi Knight, and now a master. Leia went from this headstrong princess to now this political leader. Like it's crazy seeing how far these characters have come. Now, as for the new characters, which I guess are not really new at this point, there's Amara Jade. Now, this is a character I knew about, before getting into this book, and I know this book has been out for a long time, 1991, but I'm trying to play as safe as I can, and not to give away spoilers, but I will say that she does become a major character, at least in the expanded universe. But in here, she's introduced as a smuggler and second in command to Talon Card, and I thought she was cool. When she first steps in the scene, we learned that she has it out for Luke. Like, she wants him dead, and you do find out why. And again, I'm not going to give away, I'm not going to give too much away, but knowing what I know about her, it's crazy and interesting, how she started out. The next character who I just mentioned, Talon Card, this is a character that I knew nothing about. He is a high-profile smuggler that leads a smuggling network, and also we learned that after the death of Jabba the Hutt, he has become a information broker. This this guy is pretty much, you know, the new Jabba. He has become a major player in the criminal underworld, and so far I'm liking the character. And what I think is interesting about him is that I feel like he's what Han Solo could have been if he didn't join the rebels, and he doesn't seem, you know, ruthless like Jabba. Like, he leads with honor and intellect rather than brutality. Like, I think the best way to describe Talon Karrde is that he's like a gentleman rogue. You know, he's calm, he's calculating, he avoids unnecessary violence, often acting as a neutral party. You know, he tries not to take sides with his business, but yeah, so far I think he's pretty cool, and I'm interested to see and know more of him. The next character is Jorah Sapayoth, which I probably butchered that name, but he is one of the antagonists in the book. He's a dark Jedi that Thrawn recruits in return of helping him find Luke Skywalker so he can train him, but it turns out that he's actually a clone, and due to the flaws in the cloning process, he has moments of being unstable, deeply delusional, often, you know, losing touch with reality. So it'll be interesting to see the interaction and confrontation between him and Luke. Another antagonist in this book is Rook, and again, I probably butchered that name, but he's Thrawn's personal bodyguard and assassin. He's described as like a nightmare, which is fitting because the guy is pretty terrifying. You know, he's deadly, he's cunning, he's like a creature hiding in the shadows. Like, you don't know where he's going to pop up. And another thing that I think is cool is that the character, you know, at least at the time, he was a introduction to the Nagori species, which actually becomes, you know, one of the subplots in the book. Now to finally get to the main villain of the book, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, I've been meaning to get into the legends / expanded universe of Star Wars for a while now, and the reason why I wanted to get into this book in particular was Thrawn, and finding out that this was the first book that introduced him. Now, my first introduction to Thrawn was actually the Ahsoka TV series, which honestly I don't remember a lot from that show. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember some things, and one of them was Thrawn, and I was thinking that, you know, he was pretty cool. And I know he's also in the show Star Wars Rebels, which I watched a few episodes of that, but that was like a long time ago. I need to get back into watching it. But I remember watching The Mandalorian where they name dropped Thrawn, and I didn't really have a reaction to it, but I have seen other people's reactions on the internet, and while some of them had the same reaction as me, a lot from what I saw were excited, which tells me that this character is obviously pretty popular. And seeing him in Ahsoka and checking out this book, I can see why, because he is a pretty awesome villain. I like how calm and collected he is most of the time, and how calculated he is. He's a strategist, a visionary. Like, one of the things that he does to understand his enemies, that he would study their art, their philosophy, and their culture, which I think, you know, that's interesting. And also the way he leads. Like, there are moments where there are comparisons to, you know, him and Darth Vader. Like, you know, how would Thrawn handle this, or if he was around during this battle, like how would it be different? Like, maybe it's too soon to say, but based off this book, if I had to choose between working for Thrawn or Vader, I mean, I wouldn't work for either of them. Like, they're both terrifying, but if I had to choose one, it would be Thrawn, because Vader is more like an enforcer that leads by fear. Thrawn leads through intellectual genius, loyalty, and calculated strategy rather than fear. And there was a moment where Thrawn and Jorah was talking about, you know, what their next move should be for the New Republic, and his commanding officer, Captain Galad Pellaeon, I think that's how you say it. Like I'm not good with these names, y'all, I'm sorry. But anyways, he steps in explaining his idea, and Thrawn actually went along with it, and Pellaeon was saying that, you know, hey, I'm sorry for speaking out of turn, but Thrawn wasn't angry. He actually commended it. And then like, after Pellaeon apologized, Thrawn was like, you've been working for Vader way too long, pretty much saying that, hey, I'm not Vader. So he seems to, you know, encourage the people that, you know, work for him or work with him to offer ideas and creative solutions, because Vader, you know, he's so impatient and impulsive. Like, if that was Vader, he most likely would have killed him. And not to say that Thrawn wouldn't, you know, kill you, because he would. You know, he had a soldier executed because he was failing to grasp a tactical situation, and he was shifting blame. And in Thrawn's point of view, like, he saw the guy as a wasted resource, and because of that, he had him taken out. So what I'm trying to say is that if I work for Thrawn, I feel like I have a better chance at living to see tomorrow. Whereas Vader, if I failed with him, then not only would that be my last day on the job, but it would be my last day of, well, life. Overall, I thought this was a really good book. I enjoyed the story, the characters. I'm really, I really like the lore of this universe. And after reading this book, it definitely, got me more interested in getting into more of the expanded / Legends universe. So I would recommend, checking this out if you haven't. And I also recommend checking out the audiobook version as well. And with all that being said, I would give Star Wars Heir to the Empire a 5 out of 5. So that's it for this video and my review for Star Wars Heir to the Empire, and let me know what you think. This is Marcus from the Weekly Spot. More content will be coming out soon, but until then, take care everyone.